Good morning, everybody. My name's Malcolm Ellis, and I'm in the role of General Manager of New Zealand Markets here at LIC. Many of you I may have come across over the years, because I've obviously got a reasonable farming background, and Jodie and I have retained our farming coming to this role. But prior to my current role in New Zealand Markets, I did a bit of spent time in the breeding scheme, and one of my responsibilities, along with the Jersey program, was the SGL scheme. Short gestation length. And I just want to chat to you this morning about a couple of options that I think as a farmer that I'd really like to share around the way we can utilise this piece, this opportunity that is shortening the gestation length of a particular group of animals within our herds. This first example is one that we've actually been doing in our own farm for the last couple of years, and I shared it last week with our sales team, and it was requested within the business that we maybe spread this a little bit wider via social media, so this is it. I'd always been quite concerned, and I've actually had this view for a long time, that one of the biggest contributing factors to our current empty rates in our herds is the huge role we put on our bulls. I think we underestimate the amount of non-pregnant cows or open cows at the time we put the bull out. And what's changed? I guess what's changed is we're milking more cows on a number of farms, and if we actually were to be critical and we have a look, in some cases we're milking 100, 150 more cows with converting a bit of land next door or acquiring a bit of land and everything else, and effectively using a similar sized bull team to what we've done in the past. The other thing is that on farms what we've seen is there's been a little bit of a drift away from the amount of intensity that's coming from the owner-operator perspective. So on staffed farms, like I have an enormous appreciation for the staff on our own farm, but just some of those smaller details around submission rate and heat detection are perhaps not quite where they once were, and you'll acknowledge that on some farms. Add to that the fact that we seem to have seen in some situations a shortening of the AB period. And some of this is a shift away from the owner operation where it's difficult to keep people really engaged for the period of time that we ideally would potentially practice AB. So what we're seeing in some cases, I'm just going to use the whiteboard in a few moments to use as an example, but if you've got a 500 cow herd, I've used this example a few times, but if you've got a 500 cow herd that's got an 80% submission rate and a 60% conception rate, which are national averages, and in a year like this, there's actually, I was chatting to a cocky there the other day that's running at, the example was 56% or 57% submission rate, and just 24% submission rate in the 2-year-olds in 3 weeks as a result of significant climatic impact on farm. But even if we were to use these examples, in a 500 cow farm, if just 4 weeks of AB is completed, we've got 234 non-pregnant cows out of that 500. Which is a really significant number of open cows. Now, admittedly, there's a number of farms doing noticeably more than 4 weeks, but we also do have a number of farms that are working at that number. My worry, I guess, is that when we put the bulls out, and even if that was extended to 6 and we were cutting this number back to 170 odd, or 150 to 170 non-pregnant cows when the bulls go out, the issue is that the bulls are all over it at the early stages, but I reckon bull fatigue's seriously underestimated in the industry. And what we've been doing on our own farm in the last couple of years, which is working really well, and I just really want to quickly socialise it with you, is putting the bulls out after the AB period, which in my view gives the guys a bit of a break on the farm from heat detection while the bulls are working. And then I put them out for 12 days, and there is always a spike of activity around some of those cows that just still haven't been submitted for whatever reason, unless there's been intervention. And you get that little spike, and there's that extra activity that's going on for the bulls. So we'd have the bulls out for 12 days while the guys are getting a bit of a break, and then we pull the bulls out for them to rest for a short period of time while we apply heat detection, whether it be paint or a heat detection aid, and we restart AB for 10 or 12 days with SGL to give the bulls a break. And it's amazing the impact that we've had over the last couple of years by resting the bulls for that critical time and then bring them back to finish it up. Now, I know there's a lot of farms, and an increasing number this year, that are moving to all AB and have moved away from the bull. and that's fine. But those that are still engaged with bull power, I genuinely recommend that you give consideration to the impact of bull fatigue on your farm. And I actually think that a really good way around this is to actually put the bulls out for a 12-day period and then pull them to rest and restart AB for a period of time. My last point on this, and by doing this, is that the following calving season, those cows that were mated to short gestation during that 10 to 12-day period will actually end up calving in 10 to 12 days earlier the following year. So when we've got our AB replacements coming and then we've got 10 to 12 days that we've used the bull, this reintroduction of AB and using SGL, the following calving period, these cows are actually going to calve in here, which actually keeps a bit of momentum in the calving pattern. And the other thing that has worked really well for us is it actually gives a small lull in the calving pattern for guys to be able to get away or just to be able to collect their breath at that time of calving next year. So I've got another couple of examples that I'll share with you at some point, but in the meantime, I think that attacking bull fatigue by reinstating AB with SGL is something that's well worth considering.